Well, in reviewing the last game, I'd just say that we showed that when we play with disciplined execution and give effort, physical, finish plays, play with the kind of toughness that we're looking for to create the identity that we want as a team, we're a pretty good team. And obviously the key to that is to do that with consistency, play in and play out in a game, as well as game in and game out during the season. I think that's going to be, the point of emphasis that we want to try to show our players. Good plays that we did very well. Those things were apparent, and on some plays we didn't do so well, it wasn't apparent. So, obviously this is a rivalry game. It means a lot to a lot of people, including the people in this organization and the people that play in this game. We've had some real struggles at times with this team, and this team we have a lot of respect for. Butch Jones has done a nice job there, and this team could be very easily 5-1. They lost 2 games on the last play of the game, basically, or it came down to the last play of the game, whether they scored or gave up a score. They've got good players. They got a really good running back in Kelly, who's one of the top rushers in the SEC. Their defense, and especially the secondary, has played really, really well. Top-ranked, pass defense, one of the top-ranked pass defenses in the country. So they do a good job with the scheme on both sides of the ball and on special teams. We have a lot of respect for this team and what we'll have to do and how we'll have to play to be able to have success against this team. But in rivalry games, you can pretty much throw out the record book, throw out the records of the team, throw out what happened last year, throw out what happened so far this year, and make sure that you're ready to play your best game when you play in these types of games.
Coach, I'm doing something on opening plays, and on the opening play Saturday, obviously, Damian with a long touchdown. That's happened before. Blake had a long touchdown pass against Florida a couple of years ago, et cetera. Is that something that's pre-called, that you've seen what their defensive alignment's going to be on film? What was that play, and how did it work?
Well, we actually called the play 3 or 4 times in a game where we didn't block a down lineman because they were in a 3-4 defense, and that guy had to take the quarterback, and we gave the ball off on a sweep. So when that guy takes the quarterback and we sort of push everybody, there's a place to cut back, and just happened that we executed the play perfectly. A couple other times in the game, Jalen pulled the ball and made successful plays on the same play. But I think you're always trying to sort of come up with what is the best play, what's the play that has the best opportunity to be successful, so that you have a positive play to start with and you gain a little momentum in the drive. And we felt good about that play. The play you mentioned against Florida a couple years ago, they like to play a lot of cover one. When the back went out there, Kenyon Drake, the linebacker, went out with them, so we were going to throw a slug-o, and it just happened to be we hit it for a touchdown. So every week we try to come up with an opening sequence of plays that we feel best about, where we have the best chance to get a hat on a hat and have a successful play. We don't expect it to be a 75-yard touchdown, but we do want to have a successful play and get off to a good start and create momentum in a game, positive momentum.
Back over here with Michael. So how would you assess the kickoff coverage at this point in the season, and how important is kickoff hang time in a kickoff?
Well, I think that kickoff coverage has been pretty good for the most part. I think it's tops in the league in terms of the way we've covered. But this team that we're playing also leads the league in kickoff return. So this is going to be a real challenging game for that particular unit on special teams in terms of, what they do and how they do it. I think ball placement and hang time are really, really important, depending on the coverage pattern that you use and how you're sending your guys down the field and how they're dodging blocks. And when you don't get the ball placed the right place, or you don't get to a certain yard line before the guy catches it, it makes the coverage more difficult. So JK's done a pretty good job of that. throughout the season, and we've got some guys that have done a really good job of covering.
Back over to the right with Mark.
Just when you have a few guys muff some punts, do you give them extra reps in practice that next week, or do you just kind of let it be how it always is?
Well, we practice catching the ball on punts, every week. I think we try to identify what the issue is, if a guy's struggling, and try to fix it. And, I think the guy wants to catch the ball as much as we want him to catch it. So we're going to practice as much, and he's going to want to practice as much until he gains the confidence to be able to do it correctly. I think the issues that our players had are fixable in terms of some of the things that we can do to help them maybe improve their technique or keep a little better focus on the ball and not worry so much about the coverage, so that we can gain possession of the ball, number one. That's the most important thing.
Stay over here with Taryn.
Hi, Coach. As an older receiver, how has Calvin Ridley stepped into a leadership role, and where has his game progressed?
Well, Calvin's had an outstanding season. He's one of the leading guys in our league in terms of production and performance. He's sets a great example for the young guys and has been a really good leader in that regard. And I think that's helped those younger guys on our team this year who have made a significant contribution be able to do that and show a little more maturity. At some point, sort of manage their frustrations better so they can continue to play at a high level. So we're pleased with Calvin's performance, and we're very pleased with his leadership role, that the example that he set and the time that he's taken to try to affect the other guys in a positive way.
Back on the left, Reiner.
On the first 15 plays, you guys kind of rotated the receivers out, kind of at a combination of, Ridley, Sims, and Foster in one group, and then the freshman receivers in the other. What's the philosophy behind getting maybe the freshmen on the field all at the same time versus?
Well, there really isn't a philosophy behind it. There isn't a philosophy. We want to play all six players, and we can mix and match them, or we can, play them by series. But we have confidence in all six guys. So, we feel good about however they play and whatever roles we put them in. So there really isn't a philosophy other than by doing it that way, you make sure that you're getting everybody some turns, and they're all playing positions that they're familiar with.
Come back over here too. I just lost track. Charlie, right here. Sorry.
See from their quarterback last week in his first career start against South Carolina?
Well, I thought he did some really good things. The guy's a very good athlete. I think he can make plays with his feet, as he did in the game with some rushing yards. And I think that he's certainly talented enough as a passer to make all the throws. So, I think both quarterbacks have shown when they have played that they certainly have the ability to be good players at that position. So, whoever they play or whichever guy plays, we're certainly going to know that they've got a good offensive scheme. They do a lot of good things that are difficult to defend, and both quarterbacks have the capability of executing those things really well. So it's going to be up to us to, try to take those things away with how we play.
Front left here, John Cedar.
Just how much of you talked about the young receivers earlier, how much of those guys kind of developed, and because it seemed like Jalen and the offense spread the ball around quite a bit in the last game?
Yeah, well, we're pleased with the way those guys have developed, and they've done a good job, and they've been productive, and we have confidence in them, and I think they have confidence in what we're doing, and they're not going out there making a lot of mental errors. They're actually improving their ability to be better players without the ball, which means they're blocking better and making less mental errors on the perimeter in terms of what they should do and how they should do it. So, we're very confident in those guys, and we know that we'd like for all of them to have a chance to be productive, all six of the receivers that we've been playing.
Go here in the middle with Chandler.
did you see from Josh Jacobs on Saturday, and how has he really come along since his injury, and what kind of different things can he provide that maybe some of your other running backs can't?
Well, I think he's a really good change of pace guy. He's an easy guy to create roles for because he's got a lot of diversity as a player. He's a very good receiver. He's an inside runner. He's an outside runner. But I do think he's a little bit of a change of pace guy relative to the other two guys, Damian and Bo, when they play. And, we're glad that he's healthy, and hopefully he can stay healthy and continue to play well. And I was really pleased with the contribution that he made and some of the plays that he made in the game, and hopefully we'll be able to build on that.
Stay right there with Alex. You've spoken quite often about this team's identity this year. What do you feel like it is right now, and how much farther do you need, or how much more do you need to see to know that you've reached the point where?
Well, I think your identity is something that you do on an ongoing basis. I don't think you've ever really arrived. Because at the end of the day, who you are is based on, the entire body of work and your ability to be consistent throughout the entire body of work. So, how that continues to develop and where it is based on the consistency of how we do it, not how we did it the last 10 minutes relative to how did we do it a week ago. So this is the challenge for everyone. To be committed and to buy into the things that they needed to do to play at a high level all the time when it comes to discipline, toughness, effort, finishing plays, finishing games. So I don't think you've ever arrived at that. I don't think that's something you can say, okay, we got it now we can just take it for granted that we're always going to have it. I don't think it works that way. I think it's a psychological disposition that is something that has to be there for you to play with the intensity that you need to play with every time you go out and play, every play that you go out and play, and that's the challenge of being a great competitor.
Back over to Chris Walsh.
Just to kind of follow up on that, with once you get out of training camp and get into a season, is there a certain point of the season where you see more improvement than other parts, and how important is it to keep it going as you're going along?
Oh, it's important to keep it going. There's no doubt. You want everybody to show improvement. You want everybody to get better. I think it's probably different with different guys. Some guys improve a little bit more as time goes on. Other guys struggle a little bit more. It takes them a little longer. I don't think there's necessarily a formula that says everybody's sort of progressing at the same pace. But it's important that guys that have more experience probably should play at a higher level on a more consistent basis because of their knowledge and experience and knowing what it takes to be able to do that. Younger players probably have a greater opportunity to improve and develop consistency in what they do, which to me defines their success as players. So, and we have a multitude of guys at varying levels of that on our team on both sides of the ball and on special teams, and we continue to try to work with each one of them to help them get where we'd like for them to be and where they'd like to go.
Right here with Dwayne.
Coach, you talked about Butch. They could easily be 5-1 right now. He gave you guys a tough game here, 2015, but obviously he's going through a tough time right now. Think the criticism of him is fair or unfair right now?
That's not for me to say. I watch their team play. They compete hard. They play hard in games. They put themselves in position to win every game that they played this year except one. So we have a tremendous amount of respect for the games that we've had in the past, what we've had to defend, how they play, the toughness they play with, what it's going to mean to them in this game. Because they're in the situation that they're in, you could make a case that they'll come in here and play great, play, really, really well, try to prove something. So I don't think that we should worry so much about what they do, but really should be worrying about what we do in terms of how we prepare, how we play, and make sure that we're going to be at the best of our game and not take all these external factors of what they're going through and think it's going to have some impact on the game in a positive or negative way, but focus on what we need to do.
Hey, Coach. Earlier this season, we spoke to your players about the Ole Miss game feeling like a rivalry because it's been close as of late. Do you kind of take that into consideration when you talk about rivalries? Do they need to be competitive, in your opinion?
Well, I think this, if you're talking about this one, it's been very competitive. I can remember 2 games that we had here. One, a year when we won the national championship, we had to block a field goal to win the game at the end of the game. And the last time we played here, we had like a 7-point game or whatever, a very close game, right down to the end. So I don't necessarily, I think that players get up for games because of the competition and maybe the games that they've had with them in the past. I think when you have rivalry games that have tradition associated with them for many, many, many years, that there's a different kind of motivation for those kinds of games. But I also think that the 2 games that we've had here lately, same kind of situation. Their team is pretty much a 500 team, and we're pretty much where we are, and we struggle to beat them. So, I think you all, like always, you're always looking for all these assumptions that you make because they have issues, they have problems in some kind of way. Why can't that be a great motivating factor for them and they come and play their best game of the year? Y'all ever think of that? Or just, so you can look at the glass half empty or half full, not to get to the Coke bottle.
We've seen 6 top 10 teams lose to unranked programs the last 2 weeks. In your career, what have you found has been key to keeping a team motivated regardless of opponent, regardless of circumstance?
Well, I think that's the challenge. And, not to belabor or beat a dead horse, but the rat poison that we talked about, the external factors that are out there that talks about what you all talk about, like they got all these problems, so, it should be, we just show up and flip the coin, and I don't know why we would even play the game, because of all the assumptions that get made. Well, if our players think that way, how are they going to play? Are they going to play to the standard that they need to play to? So I think that's the challenge. And I think, when you listen to Washington State's coach talk after the game, that's what he's talking about. So, you got to give the other team credit. You got to respect your opponent, and you got to play to a high standard all the time. And that's the challenge. And I think what people don't really understand is it's not the human condition to be that way. The human condition for everybody is to survive. All right, that's how we all got here. That's how we all started. That's what we all want to do. It wasn't to be the best that you could be or win the championship. That's special. All right, so to get a group of people to be special all the time, in every situation, with all the noise and external factors and all the stuff that's out there, it's a real challenge. And that's why people in the top 10 get beat every week, and that's what we're trying to avoid by having the right psychological disposition of what we have to do to play at a high standard, regardless of what anybody else's circumstances are, and to try to block out all the noise that gets created, which we appreciate because it creates interest in our game. So I really do respect and appreciate every one of you. Do I agree with you? Not always. Is that it? That's it. Thank you.